My guest today is John Diggs, who's a certified love life coach and mind mapping mentor. Once a standout college football player who went on to play in the NFL, but unfortunately his career dreams were shattered by reconstructive knee surgery. It was during this extreme low that John emerged with a newfound mission and purpose based on the power of mind maps to help people love and live their best life. Welcome to Lifeology.
Thank you for having me, James. This is awesome, man. This is really cool. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that as well. We were talking in the pre-call, and one of the great things I love about your story, and I'm sure many people can relate with this, but we're at our all-time high, where in our career, life is flourishing, and something happens, and then we're all of a sudden at a low. And we often can compare our high with our low and think that our low is always going to be our future. So I really want to hear your story, and then we'll transition to the mind maps because you've done a fantastic job helping so many people as well. So walk me through this. You are at the pinnacle of your NFL career, and what happened for you?
Well, reconstructive right knee surgery. I was actually playing in the CFL at that time. I heard you from Canada. I played with the Edmonton Eskimos back then.
Nice. Okay.
And I twisted my knee up pretty good. And the doctor said that after surgery, I could go back and play again. But if I twisted it or dinged it again, I'd probably have to walk with a cane the rest of my life. So I took that as a hint and a half to move on. But yeah, that was the first low point. The biggest low point that I experienced, though, was after that, I went into the mortgage industry in Southern California, Los Angeles, went through all the industry, actually developed one of the top mortgage brokerages in Southern California, living a millionaire-like lifestyle, had everything, everything that a guy can ever want, beautiful wife, family, home, and the like. But then the recession hit 2007, 2008, where I literally lost every single thing that I had that I loved, including career, family, wife, kids, everything was gone. And I was forced to go back to my mom's house humbly because I had nowhere else to go. I couldn't get a job. And this actually is where my TEDx talk starts. I did a TEDx talk last year, and this kind of story, I'm just going to briefly outline it. But when I went into my mom's house, all I had was this big box of motivational CDs, tapes, DVDs, and stuff that I collected over the years to help me grow my life. So now at my lowest point, I knew I had to revisit everything in that box, to try to rebuild my life. And inside of that box was this book called Mind Mapping. And a colleague or something gave it to me and never really read it. I think I just kind of maybe looked at a chapter or two, but never really dug into it. But for whatever reason, it really resonated with me at this point. So I read the book and decided to mind map all of the contents that was in this big box that I took to my mom's house with me. Mind map Think and Grow Rich, Has a Man Thinketh, Unlimited Power, Positive, Wayne Dyer, How to Influence and Influence People. Everything that I had in that book, actually mind mapping was the first discovery of the power of mind mapping, because I realized that now that it was active learning. Instead of reading and underlining, I was reading and trying to find keywords and phrases to actually add to the mind map, which caused the information to resonate on a much deeper level than the first time I read the book.
Sure.
And this enabled me to really just transform myself, as I started reading all of those books and mind mapping them. I started to see connections and of what all of the leaders were saying, Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, and the like. And I started to realize that, all they were communicating was just the importance of being madly in love with the life experience. They had their own way of saying it, but that was their ultimate goal, is just, hey, live the best life you can. And here's my interpretation, or here's my coaching around that. So I realized that was their purpose of life. But then another connection that I made, James, that was really powerful, was that I realized that I had the power to determine how I love my life. So I knew I had to be, once I realized that the goal of life was to love it, the purpose, then I also made the connection with that process of that I'm in control and I do have the power on how I choose to love my life. It's up to me. So that began what I call the I Am Mind Map.
There's so much you said there, and there's so many things I want to talk about. But first off, thank you so much for sharing that. There's, once again, to be on your mom's couch. Not the funny thing is, but I can relate with that. I remember my late 20s. I had a whole not breakdown, but my life blew up. And so in that, I found myself on my parents' couch, and I was like, what do I do? So the funny thing is I always I don't know. I can connect with people who are in the same position, and it really, because I get it. I understand when you're at the top of your career, and all of a sudden something happens. So once again, thank you for sharing that with me. When when you were at your mom's house and you looked at that box,
Mm-hmm.
why did you read those things again? Because life said you shouldn't read it again. What was it that said I need to read those things again because I know it helped me before?
I didn't know what else to do. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I didn't know what else that I could do in my life at that particular time because the
Yeah.
industry was destroyed. I couldn't go get another job. In fact, I got denied employment at Target. Target
Wow.
wouldn't hire me, said I was
Yeah.
overqualified, which was weird. I'm like, man, I have 3 kids I need to take care of, and Target was like, no. But so I didn't know what else to do other than to try
Yeah.
to get into my mind and try to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
something in those books. I totally believe in those landmark
Mm-hmm.
education stuff that I took,
Yes.
and all of these things that I had in that box. I know for a fact it was the contents in that box that helped me live this incredible life. So
Mm-hmm.
I just something told me to go back in it, and
I'm
so
glad you listened to them.
I went to my mom's house, slept on the couch that I bought her, by the way. It was kind of
That's funny.
but all I had was my gym bag, my
Yeah.
mountain bike, and that box. Just moved to my
Mm-hmm.
mom's house, just trying to figure out. It was truly rock
Yeah.
bottom. It was more damaging then than it was when my football career ended.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because I didn't have nearly as many
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities as I
Mm-hmm.
did at that. When I had
Yeah.
wife and
Of course.
kids and spent 15 years in that industry before that. It was really a devastating, very low part of my life. But
Yes.
thank God, by the grace of God, is all I can say, is that I had that idea to mind map those contents of that box. I got clear on the purpose of life of just
Mm-hmm.
simply loving it. Then most importantly, I got clear on that I need to get clear on who I am as a person, as a human, what's most
Yes.
important, what's my core beliefs, what's my values.
Mm-hmm.
For me I needed to start there before I can rebuild my life. Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Got to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I went and started developing that what I call now is the I am mind map, and yeah, it's just been powerful, very very powerful.
Congratulations.
Because like what you said earlier, life throws us curveballs. Life
Mm-hmm.
throws us so many unexpected situations that causes us to hit a low point of our life. And what I find is those of us that aren't really clear on who we are and what our life is about finds ourselves suffering more in those lows,
Yes.
probably spending more time in those lows, probably doing more damage to themselves in
Mm-hmm.
those low
Yeah.
points versus those who are like, wait a minute, all right, I know who I am. I know what my life is about. I'm dealing with a setback or a challenge right now. Let me strategize out of it.
Yes.
Is what I found with my personal experience, and some of the clients that I've been working with, are testimonies to that, as well as now that they're going through divorces or deaths. Now that
Mm-hmm.
they have a more empowerment feeling of this is who I am, they can manage it better, and get back
Yes.
on track.
In psychology, we have what's called radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is a fancy term that basically says you accept the facts as they are. It doesn't mean you like it, doesn't mean you agree with it, doesn't mean that you're okay with it. It just simply means these are the facts and what do I do with it? A way to
Right.
kind of think about that is a quote that says, trouble is inevitable, but misery is optional. So life happens. Do
Right.
you live in that misery? Do you choose to live in that misery? You may not realize it, but if our thoughts continue to reflect and remind us of what we were, and then we compare that to what we are now or who we are now, all of a sudden that's miserable because, of course, we don't want to be
Right.
in this position, but here we are. So, like you said,
Right.
the choice is how do I view my life now? These are the facts. What do I do with
Right.
it? If I make it worse by living in that misery, and once again, there's a time and place for grief. Never minimize that. But on the other side of that grief, and you choose when that grief ends, how do you see
Right.
yourself and who do you become?
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful and fitting. But I don't know if but I found that, a lot of people that aren't really self-aware or have a
Mm-hmm.
self-connection or have that connection to their personal power, if you will, they struggle with that. They
They do.
struggle with that under awareness that, wait a minute, all right, this was just an event. I
Yes, it
can
does not
choose
define
how to
me.
perceive this event,
Yes.
and how can
Yes.
I, use this as a growth opportunity. People that really haven't really got clear on who they are and who they are in this
Mm-hmm.
world and what their life is about. I've been finding struggle with that, which is what my mission is to help people get clear with that So when life throws us those crazy moments and low points, you're empowered with a strategy and a mind mapping tool that can help you actually um, transform that experience in a more efficient and a more effective way, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's transition into what mind mapping is, because I'm sure everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, just tell us what mind mapping is." They're here,
Yes.
they're getting all excited. What is mind
Yes.
mapping?
Mind mapping basically is a visual information management tool.
Okay.
Simply, probably maybe simpler said, is it's a way where you can actually view your thoughts, what's going on in
Mhm.
your mind,
Mhm.
anything that you want to contemplate, you want to goal set, you want to make a decision, you want to deal with a problem, you deal with issues in your past, anything that you would need to consider or think about, you can put that in a mind map form, with starting with the central topic or whatever it is, the
Mhm.
theme of your overall thing that you're dealing with, like a problem,
Yeah.
for instance. Put the name of the problem in there. Then what I coach my clients to do is whether you once we identify that problem or decision, around that, let's just put who, what, when, where, why, and how
Why? Mhm.
around that problem. And now let's brainstorm each one of those subtopics. So who's involved with this problem? Who should be involved? Who shouldn't be involved? What is actually happening? What should have happened? What could have happened? Where? Then we go to when, why, and how. And now people can now see that problem from like a 10,000 foot
Yes.
perspective,
Removes the
and
emotion
now
from it.
see the whole components of the problem or the decision or whatever it is they're considering, to ensure that they're making a more informed decision, or a more you can see the solutions to the problem. A lot of these things are just so much by getting it out of this. And a lot of people are when they're stressed and overloaded or overwhelmed, it's because they got all of this circling through here, where mind mapping is a way for they can visually take it out of here and put it in a paper map form, to really just see it, for what it is,
Yes.
and not with all of that emotional stuff that you may find, which is what I
Correct.
found, by the way, James, which is very powerful, that when I deal with clients that are stressing over a problem or dealing with something, when I take them through this mind mapping process,
Mhm.
it releases a lot of that angst and that emotion that they had around the problem, because it's no longer in here, it's now
Yes.
out there. So that's been a very good process that I've been finding. And again, it's a powerful, when you mind map it out, it illuminates solutions. It
It
gives you
does.
ideas that you never thought of. You start making connections that you didn't think were connected. It's a powerful
Exactly.
thing.
In psychology, we call that the wise mind and the emotional mind. So, as we know, the
Right.
emotional mind, that's when we live with that misery. And the wise mind is that ability to remove the emotion from that, to look at it, like you said, from above, and to look at
Mhm.
what your potential options are. Because once again, the emotion, and you know it, I know it, can be so strong that you just can't see a way out. So, to really externalize it, to look at the
Right.
facts once again and see what those
Right.
options are. When
Right.
you started this, you said that your passion for what you teach people is how to love life. It's interesting that
Yes.
you said that. I've never actually heard someone say that. I've heard to live your life, or to thrive in your life, but I've never heard it worded to love your life, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that concept, because the word love obviously has many different connotations or meanings for like a 13-year-old girl versus an older, different person.
Right.
But for you to love life, help me understand that, because I want to learn more about that as well.
It's a great question. Great question. I'm glad you asked that. I don't get asked that much, but it's very, very powerful. And in that, I come to realize or believe that our most powerful emotion that we have is love. So it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to me to that we should apply or think about or embrace the most powerful emotion to our most prized possession, which is
Interesting.
life.
The
You
correlation.
know, there's
Nice,
nothing more
nice.
that we should value more than life itself. So
Yeah,
it makes sense to me that,
it does.
again,
It
the
makes sense what you
purpose
say.
of
Yeah,
life is just simply to love it and to love the experiences for as long as we have it.
yeah.
And it's and I say this in talks sometimes, when you think about, the very brief moment that we are on this planet. When I talked to my kids the other day, and I was like, girls, these dinosaurs, we watched Jurassic Park or something. I said, do you realize that dinosaurs walked this earth for 25 million years
Yeah.
plus? And I said, do you also realize that that was like 25 million plus years ago? That was a
That's crazy.
long time ago. This earth is very, very
Yeah,
old. I said,
yeah.
Jesus was what, 2,400 years ago, over 2,000 years. This is a very old planet. And we're lucky to live 60, 70, 80 years.
Yeah, that's
And,
true.
and, and it pains my heart to see how many people are stressing and struggling and going
Yeah.
and mentally head tripping themselves and not just appreciating the fact that I'm alive. You know, I'm
Yes. Yes.
alive.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you
Which
know,
is a miracle in itself. It really is. Yeah.
right,
I
right. So that's the genesis of the love life and my mantra.
I I remember last year I went through something really painful. I had a loss in my life and a transition in my life, and I remember I sat there. And so I have a strong faith in God, and so for me, when I sat there in my prayer time, I was able to say, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity that I
Mhm,
can sit in the pain of this because I know on
mhm.
the other side who I'm going to become, and I'm
Yeah,
excited to see what that looks like. And so the reframe I think for many people is when you can appreciate the struggle, because once again, you can't have a rainbow without rain and sunshine. So
yin
for me to
yang,
really
right?
love
Yin yang.
life, for me, yeah, for me to love life and to love who I'm going to become, the pain of this and the joy of what's going to come out of it allows me to become that more evolved person who in whatever capacity I'm able to come out of it, let me say that again. And however I come out of it is determined how I internalize that. So for me to
Right.
internalize it, that this is joy, there's joy in this pain, allows me to
Yeah.
be the more well-rounded person I am today. So
Yep.
for me, I think
It's
just
life.
hearing you, yeah,
It's
it
life.
is, it is, it's,
Yeah,
it
it's
is,
life.
it is life.
And
Yes,
you know, I kind of joke about it, but you know, whatever a person is going through, I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of people that have died that be willing to exchange your problem
yes, yes,
just for a
yes,
second, you know, of your
yes.
problem. So you keep things in perspective and just appreciate the fact that yeah, you're gonna have ups and downs of life. If you
Mhm.
don't, you're probably gonna be bored as heck. You know, you're probably living
Yes.
sheltered. You know, you're gonna have, you know, ups and downs and twists and turns in life. And that's a part of life which you should appreciate
Yeah,
fully.
yeah,
So when
exactly.
you're, you know, your last days or whatever, you can look back and be like, you know what? I fully embraced all of the emotions that life brought me, the goods and the bads. And you
Yes.
know what's even more interesting, James, that I find, if speaking of loving life, is that when people are truly in love with life, unconditionally in love with just the experience of life, life seems to always, yes, always find ways to love us back, you know, to give
Agreed.
us
Yes.
blessings, you know. So it's like you love life, life is going to love you back. So just love, regardless of whatever you're
Yeah.
dealing with, love to
When you
appreciate that moment.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I can think back in my own life as well when I just sat with the joy of things. Once again, blessings came, left and right. When you
Mhm.
work with people, how do you help them differentiate between keeping up with the Joneses of who they think they should be? Society says I should be this, or my family says I should do that. How do you help them with mind mapping remove the concept or the idea of
Mhm.
how the world sees us, or our facade that we've created to the world to say, yes, I should be this way. I should keep up with the Joneses. I should have all this stuff. How do you help them separate between that versus who they are to build a foundation from the ground up so that
Yeah.
they can fully live and love life?
Yeah, and that's a great question too, because that's a part of the I am process. You know, it's
Mhm.
actually a mind map that has the subtopics, four different main subtopics
Wow.
with health, wealth, success, and happiness. So we have conversations around what is being having excellent health means to you as it relates to spiritual health, mental health,
Mm,
physical health. What does having wealth, an enormous amount of wealth, mean to you as it relates to positive emotions,
yeah.
skills,
Hmm.
and freedom? Then, as it relates to I am having enormous success relationships, results, and rewards, and
Yes.
being happy, being blessed for your past
Hmm.
experiences,
Hmm.
feeling grateful for your future experiences in the present moment right now to truly love life. In that process, it kind of works people through the fact that it's not about the Joneses. It's not
Yes, that's
about
right.
keeping up with others. It's what it really
Hmm.
brings you happiness. Everybody, what's happy for somebody and brings them
Yeah.
fulfillment for someone may not be yours. But unless you really get clear on deciding what it means to you, you're not going to be happy. You know,
Yeah.
so you got to get clear that you are born on this planet to determine how you want to live your life and harness that power, that unique power that we have as humans to decide how we want to think, feel, behave, what we want to experience.
Yes.
You have that power. You may not just have the tool that can help you clarify it,
Hmm.
like this I
Hmm.
am process, which is what I want to show people, because now you can actually look at it and it becomes a dynamic. breathing tool that can follow you through your
Yeah.
whole life. So whenever you're feeling jealous or envious or, you know, or lacking or downtrodden or you know, whatever negative emotion you
Hmm.
may be experiencing, you can always go back to that I am mind map.
Yes.
Then, you know, reset yourself on what you want your life to be, not what they want your life to be
Correct. Yeah.
or
Agreed.
what their
Agreed.
experience is.
We have
Yeah.
a term in psychology that's called reframing. I'm sure everyone's heard it before. So
Reframing.
you
Yep.
reframe a situation. So what do I focus on? I like to explain reframing in the sense of every situation is like a diamond. So a diamond that's cut has so many different facets, you know, the different sides of it. When you look
Yes.
at something, if you don't like how you feel about it or it doesn't feel right, well, then just turn that diamond a little bit and look at it from a different angle. Looking at
Yep.
it from a different angle allows a person to see it in a different way. For example, if
Yep.
I struggle, I'm like, gosh, I don't know how to see this differently. I can say, well, how would John see this? How would he explain this situation to me? So
Mhm.
John would probably say it's like this. So if I can't figure it out myself, use someone else's concept or thoughts or words to be able
Mhm.
to see it in a different way. And from there, you're like, huh, maybe that's true. So if I think that's true, because what we think determines what we feel
Right.
determines how we respond. So if my
Right.
perception changes, all of a sudden, my feelings are going to change. And from my feelings change, that gives me another way, more opportunities to do something different. I always like to remind people that happiness, there's two versions of happiness. Happiness is
Mhm.
something that happens that an event happens and I'm happy about it, but that doesn't
Yep.
last long. The other version of happy is a choice I make and the reframe to determine what do I focus on to create a long lasting slow burn of happiness that is
Yes.
continually be in my mind and my body and my spirit, as opposed to an event changing it. Because as we know,
Meaning.
events happen, life happens, I'm happy, I'm sad, blah, blah, blah. But the point
Yeah.
is you determine how long that slow burn of that joy or that happiness is based on how you perceive a situation.
Yeah. You have that power. You know, and
Yes,
most
you do.
people, victims, I think of victims, you know, they don't realize that they have that power to shift their thinking. And I just had a conversation just yesterday, which might be useful for your audience as well, with a client, and you know, I was talking to her about, and she's downtrodden. Her relationship didn't go the way, you know, she expected it to. But I said, you know,
Mhm.
eventually, you know, this your first relationship? She said no. I said, you had a previous relationship that you was equally in love? I was like, yeah.
Mhm.
She was like, yeah. And I said, so eventually over time, what happened where you didn't have that same negative emotion, you just basically just shifted your perception about the event. The event still
Totally.
happened.
Hmm.
He left you, that person died. But when you get over something, you just shift your
Hmm.
perception of it because the event stayed the
Correct.
same. So the
Exactly.
question is, you know, if that's what's going to happen over time anyway, you know, and time is so precious in our life, you know, why it take so long to shift that perception? You know,
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Yes.
at least be
Closure is
open.
something we give ourselves. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Reframe it.
We
Take
you
control of the reframe. Yeah.
you and I could literally talk all day, like nonstop. Like I can tell we're just vibing and so much
I
energy.
hope
Unfortunately,
I love to stay in touch. Yeah. It's
of course,
awesome.
unfortunately, our time is up. I mean, literally, I looked at the timer. I was like, holy cow, we are really at the end of the show, unfortunately. But I know that my viewers and listeners go to your website, and you'll tell us in just a second. They'll be able to learn so much more about you, look at your books you've bought, learn more about your story, and work with you.
Yes.
So, John Diggs, where would they find all this information online?
Well, naturally on johndiggs.com. But then specifically for your listeners, is johndiggs.com/lifeology. That's specific to a lot of the things that I'm sharing right now. Gives people some options if they want to really dig deeper into this I am process, learn more about it. As always, I'm always available. I'm on all social medias, YouTube, and all that stuff. So I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. I'm really, really excited to really try to cause and create positive change in the world with mind mapping, and I hope your listeners explore it, learn it, and feel free to ask me questions whenever.
Awesome. You and I, like I said, we had a wonderful conversation. So looking forward to talk to you in just a couple seconds as well. My viewers and listeners also know that if they can't find this information any other place, simply go to the show notes at jamesmillerlifeology.com and I'll connect you with John Diggs and you can learn more about him. Thanks again, John. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jane. Take care, guys.